Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in. My name is Sumit, and I'm co-founder of TrueMind Capital Services. TrueMind Capital is a SEBI-registered investment management and advisory tech platform. It is a fee-only investment advisory firm, which is run by professionals from IIT, CFA, and CFP background with more than 15 years of experience. Since we do not earn from commissions, we provide unbiased, quality, and personalized financial advisory solutions to help our clients achieve their life goals comfortably. We all know that it's not easy living in India. Given the population, there's always struggle for resources. To ensure that we are able to afford things, we have to focus on building wealth. Building wealth comes from savings, investing right, and avoiding biggest financial mistakes, which could cause a severe blow to your financial situation. In this session, we are going to talk about some of the most common and biggest financial mistakes people commit and how to avoid it. So the key learning objectives in this session would be identifying and understanding 6 biggest financial mistakes. So we'll discuss about what are these 6 biggest financial mistakes and understand how they can cause a severe damage to your financial situation. Next, we'll discuss about how we can avoid them. First biggest financial mistake, which is very commonly seen in people, is their focus on building liabilities over assets. So there was a report in Financial Express last month, which, according to a survey, 77% of working India relies on personal loans to make ends meet. And most of these personal loans are taken for meeting medical emergencies, children's education, and wedding expenses. So what people do is like they take loans and then, have an EMI to pay off where, they make adjustment in their savings and expenses after taking the loan to pay off their loans over a period of time. So we all know that there are certain financial events in our lives, like children education, their marriage, our own retirement, or there could be any medical emergencies that can come at any point in time. And there are 2 approaches to meet these financial events, to fund these financial events. First approach is at the time of the event when, for example, there is a marriage or there is education, your kid has started going for higher education, you take loan and then create provision out of your savings and expenses to pay off that loan over a period of time. Second approach could be you start preparing for those events which you know are going to happen for sure in your life by investing in a systematic manner. So let's see how these 2 approaches actually make a significant difference in your wealth. When you go for a loan, for example, you have your kid is say right now 15 years of age, and you plan that he or she will get married at 25 years of age. So there is a tenure of 10 years. Now, after 10 years, the cost of marriage obviously will go high. You probably would have planned that you will be spending, say, 15, 20 lakhs. It will go up because of inflation over a period of time. So imagine it comes out to be 25 lakhs at the time of marriage. And what you do, you take a loan of 25 lakhs, a personal loan, and personal loans personal loan don't come cheap. They can go up to as high as 20% plus kind of an interest rates embedded in them. So assuming that you get some decent rate personal loan at say 14%, you will end up paying an EMI of 38,000 to pay off the loan of 25 lakhs over a period of 10 years, assuming interest rate of 14% on that loan. So the total payment you'll be making on the loan would be 46 lakhs over 10 years period. For a loan amount of 25 lakhs, you are making total payment of 46 lakhs. Now take the second approach, which is building asset or preparing for that event in advance. So here, what you know that at the time of the event, you would be needing say 25 lakhs. You have 10 years for that event to happen. You start an SIP of 10,760 rupees, which will generate a return of 12%, assuming a return of 12%. You will be able to create a corpus of 25 lakhs in 10 years. So the payment that you have made over 10-year period is roughly 12.91 lakhs. So you see the difference, significant difference that has between these two approaches. In first, you are for a similar kind of the fund requirement of 25 lakhs, you end up paying 46 lakhs. On the other side, for similar requirement of 25 lakhs, you are just paying 13 lakhs. Now, this difference between paying 46 lakhs and 13 lakhs is the loss of wealth that has happened to you just because you did not prepare in advance. So why it's important that you must prepare in advance? Because in any case, even if you take a loan, you will be creating a room out of your savings and expenses and paying EMI of 38,000 per month to pay off that loan. Why not create that room in advance? You know, which would be much lesser than what you will be ending up paying as an EMI on loan. So create a room for SIP in advance of 10,760 out of your savings and expenses, and you are very well prepared to deal with the financial event when it happens. So that difference between creating, investing 13 lakhs to create an asset of 25 lakhs at the time of event versus paying 46 lakh for the loan that you have taken of 25 lakhs at the time of event. That difference of roughly 33 lakhs, that is a loss of wealth that has happened to you. Uh, Doing well with money has a little to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave. Said by Morgan Housel. He is a popular financial blogger and the author of the book Psychology of Money. This also reminds me of someone I really cherish, the book Rich Dad and Poor Dad, written by Robert Kiyosaki. I would highly recommend everyone, if you haven't read already, do read that book. It talks about the mindset of a rich dad and a poor dad, and how rich dad focuses on building assets, whereas a poor dad focuses on owning things by taking loans. So the difference between two approaches, decides how wealthy you become or whether you struggle with your finances. So the bottom line is you should avoid bad EMIs, avoid uh, taking loans, and you should adopt good EMIs, which are SIPs. So what are the loans to avoid? First is a home loan, which most of people, when they get in a job, they are either told by their parents or they feel like owning a home by taking a loan would be a good decision. But there are a lot of negative outcomes of this. When you take a home loan for 15 to 20 years, you are paying an interest cost of roughly 7 to 9%, where the EMIs you're going to pay is going to be certain, whereas the income you will be earning is not something you can be 100% sure of over the next 15 to 20 years, because there's so much uncertainty. Having a loan on your head and no 100% surety of income can cause periods of tension, which could also affect your health. Uh, Another aspect is convenience aspect, where when you have a job, you get a new job in some other city or maybe within a city at some different location. If you are having a house, you would not feel like taking up a job offer, which could be much better than what where you're working currently. And also, if it's within a city, you'll be traveling for a very longer time. Then missing the time with your family or following some of your hobbies. So it's important that in the beginning of your career, till the time you think that you will be also switching jobs or there may be some better opportunities that may come, it's important that you stay on rent, and it would be easier for you to move from one location to another based on the job opportunities or the job offers you land. Staying on rent and uh, not taking a loan also has an economic advantage. Let me explain how. So when you stay on rent, you're just paying rental yield of roughly 2 to 3% to the landlord. When you take a home loan, the home loan rate is in the range of 7 to 9%. Difference between your rent that you're paying per month and the EMI, if you buy the same house or a different house, the cost of the overall amount of EMI and the difference between rent is significant in most of the cases. So what you can do is like stay on rent, then whatever the difference between rent and EMI that you thought you will be paying, start an SIP of that difference between rent and EMI amount. Start an SIP of say about say 10 years, 15 years. Delay your buying your home when as a matter of fact, I think you should be buying a house closer to your retirement when you are very sure that this is the place I'm going to live for rest of my retired life. And as a matter of fact, there's another reason that most of the cities we are living in, the places we are living in, we're not very sure whether these cities or places are going to be livable after 15-20 years, closer to our retirement time. So that's why delaying your home purchase as much as possible really helps. When you start SIPs to purchase your house say after 10 years, 15 years, you will be able to create a big amount of corpus, a big asset, which you can put to purchase 100. You put 100% down payment for buying a house. You may even left with some other surplus of that asset, which you can use for meeting other financial goals. So that's where economic sense also is significant here. When you take a home loan, you end up paying a significant amount. When you just stay on rent and invest the balance in SIPs, you create asset which will give you a lot of peace of mind as well. Second, many people also, as soon as they could afford paying EMIs, they buy expensive cars. So what happens when you buy expensive car on EMIs? You again end up paying a significant amount. The cost of the car could be say 10 lakhs. You end up paying 15 lakhs, 18 lakhs over a period of loan. So that is where I think instead of looking for an expensive car, you can focus on some decent car, which you can purchase by paying 100% down payment, and that way you will be saving a lot of money, which you can invest to create a asset over a period of time. So this asset creation, as the more savings you do, the more better investment you do, the asset creation that happens actually takes you closer to financial freedom. The higher you save, better you invest, it will give you a lot of confidence and peace of mind, and also give you freedom to be financially free as early as possible. You can retire not without thinking that you will necessarily have to retire at 60. You can retire at 50 or 45 years if you plan well. And retirement doesn't mean that you stop working. It's just that you stop working for money. You can actually start working for something you really enjoy doing. So I don't want to sound preachy, but this is something you should focus on to ensure that you have a better financial future. Third, many youngsters have been seeing purchasing mobile phones, which are new. Apple phone has launched, and people just rush after to buy it on loans. Of course, lot many people buy these expensive gadgets by paying through EMI. EMI create an illusion, a wrong illusion in the mind of people that they can afford a particular thing, but in reality, their current salary isn't allowing them to be able to purchase the entire good or services they are looking for. So instead of what you need is something that you should focus more rather than what you desire. Unless you have created a significant amount of corpus or assets, then you can follow your desires without affecting your overall financial situation and delaying your financial freedom. So that's where it's important that you focus right now more on your need, and then once you have sufficient asset, you can focus on your desires as well. So it says that modern slaves are not in chains, they are in debt. The bottom line of all that, what I'm talking about is that please avoid loans at all cost. Focus on building assets and avoid loans in whatever possible way you can, because that's the only way of becoming wealthy, by focusing on assets, or struggling with your finances by focusing on liabilities. Second biggest financial mistakes that you must avoid is not having a financial plan. So it's a very popular adage that is said that failing to plan is planning to fail. So there was a study by Lendedu in US which revealed biggest regret among elders when they retired. So first biggest regret is not saving enough for retirement. Second, regretted spending too much on non-essentials. Third, regretted not investing any money. Even in India, ET conducted Insta poll asking people, do you think what Indians save is enough for retirement? Overwhelmingly, 81% people said no. So people are aware that they are not saving enough for retirement, but the problem is they still do not plan to prepare for retirement. The problem comes majorly from not saving enough for retirement. And even if you start saving, then not knowing how much, where to invest and how much to invest. Also, saving has to do with your expenses as well. So lower your expenses on non-essentials, higher would be your savings. So simple, your income minus your expenses is the saving. That's the simple formula. If you focus more on your savings right now, you will not you focus more on your savings and then investing correctly. You will now not have regret at the time of your retirement, which most of the people have. And in the current situation, I've been seeing a lot of people living the life of YOLO. You live only once, and that's where I fear that at the time of retirement they are seriously not prepared for it. How are they going to fund their retirement? That is something which makes me quite fearful. Coming to the financial goal plans, we all know that there are certain life events which would require financial commitment. For example, children education, their marriage, or buying a house, or your retirement planning. But problem with knowing this but not doing anything is that many people are not aware that what is the corpus required. They don't understand that inflation will increase the amount that you require today to a bigger amount at the time of event. They also do not know that even if if my goal is if I need that much corpus, how much I need to invest on a monthly basis. So what is the amount I need to invest and where I need to invest? So there are some important questions that need answering, and it's not very easily available anywhere. That's why Truman Capital created some tools to help a lot of people understand what would be the corpus requirement at the time of the event, and how much of SIP that they need to start, and where they should put those SIP, create put that SIP in different schemes. So where they can make that investment to be able to achieve their target corpus amount at the time of the event. So let me show you that. So when you type www.truemindcapital.com, you reach to the website truemindcapital.com. Here, as you scroll down, you will see Get Free Plan. Click on Get Free Plan, and now you will have four options: general investment, goal-based planning, wealth-based planning, retirement planning. Goal-based planning is where you can select children education, buying a car at some point in time, your home purchase at some point in time, or any other goal, maybe a world tour or something that you can plan for. Wealth-based plan is about how much you have a target of, say, reach 5 crore of corpus in, say, 10 years, 15 years time frame. So how much you need to invest to be able to achieve that 5 crore target in a systematic manner. Retirement planning, here you can create a plan to understand what is the corpus that you would be needing at the time of retirement, and how much and where you need to save on a monthly basis or one-time basis to achieve that target corpus. So let's assume you are say at 30 years of age at present age. Let me give you a demo how to create a plan. Uh, Assuming your retirement age to be 60. Next is life expectancy. So this is about how long you're gonna live. You can arrive at this number by understanding by seeing how long your family members have lived, how long your grandparents have lived. So you should take the higher number. The longer the period, better it is, because it's not really good to outlive your savings. So it's not that something you wish to live for a certain time period. This is not what you need to enter here. It's what you think as per your family history, how long you could live, and take the maximum number possible. So let's assume that it's be 85 years. Expected inflation pre-retirement. So average lifestyle inflation that most of us experiences in the range of 7 to 8%. Let's take it 8% to be on conservative side. Expected inflation post-retirement. So we can take it say at 5%, because as we reach closer to our retirement, after 25 years, Indian economy also will be maturing from fast-growing economy to a more mature economy, where the growth rate would not be as high as we have experienced in the past, or maybe we will be experiencing in the next 10 years. So the growth rate will come down, and inflation has a direct connection with the overall economic growth rate as well. So we can assume it to be 5%. Uh, this is about monthly general expenses required in current scenario. So the amount, so the expenses that you are incurring every month, and that you think will also continue post retirement in the current term. So these expenses you need to add here. So assuming it to be say 50,000 per month, you need at present, which you think will continue post retirement as well. Medical expenses, when we reach to the older age, we incur more medical expenses. So assuming it to be say 5,000 per month in the current environment, maybe we can also understand how much our parents or grandparents are spending on medical expenses in the current situation. So we need to enter that value on a monthly basis. Amount to be left after that. So that is something you can think of how much you want to leave for your your children, your near dear ones. But I think I would go with zero, because you already would have created a house which you will be leaving for your children. So it's up to you whether you want to leave something else or not. Investment mode is about whether you want to invest one time or you want to invest on a monthly basis. So monthly basis, something I would recommend, since you are earning, most of the people are getting regular salary income. So saving systematically on a monthly basis is the right way to go about it. Risk appetite pre-retirement, it's about the how much maximum downside you can bear on your investment without getting panicked, and knowing that it will recover in the long term. So assuming it to be say 20%, if I reduce the volatility or the downside risk in my portfolio, my overall returns are also reducing. So as we say that higher the volatility, higher the returns. That's how you will have to change the downside risk on your portfolio to see whether you're getting higher returns and what kind of downside risk you're comfortable with. So let's take it say 25%, and on this I'm expecting the expected weightage returns would be around 12%. Our risk appetite post retirement usually goes down, since we rely on our retirement corpus to meet our expenses. So assuming it to be say 10% post retirement, now create. So you will have to enter your email ID. And if you're not registered, it will send an OTP using which you can access the plan. So here's a retirement plan. All the inputs that you entered are mentioned here. Plan summary, investment strategy, and the option is growth. Here at the retirement future value. So the expenses per month that you think that will, will continue post retirement as well. The value, the amount of money that would be required per month would be 5 lakh because of inflation impact at the time of your retirement. So the 50,000, what you are paying right now to purchase certain goods and services, you will have to shell out 5 lakh per month at the time of your retirement. Your medical expenses also from 5,000, it will increase to 50,000 per month. Now here there is a chart which shows that after retirement, because of the inflation impact, how your overall expenses are going to rise. So at the time of retirement, it is 66 lakh is something that you need to meet your expenses to begin with. And at the time, when you reach age of 85, you would be needing roughly 2.2 crores. Now, what is the retirement corpus you need to meet all your expenses post-retirement? This comes out to be roughly 13 crores. So this is the amount you need at the time of your retirement to be able to meet your retirement expenses comfortably without compromising with your lifestyle. And the amount of monthly investment that you need to make is 44,700. So the total investment you will be making over the period of 30 years. So assuming your age is 30 years and retiring at 60, it would be 1 crore 60 lakhs, which will turn to 13 crore over 30 years period because of compounding, because our investments are growing at roughly 11.74%. And that also, we also give you a breakup that based on your risk appetite, how much has to be in equity, how much has to be in debt, and within equity, how much has to be in large cap, multi cap, mid and small cap, within debt, small cap, small and medium term funds, long term and ultra short term funds, and the breakup in terms of amount. So total that you need to invest is 44,700, and the breakup category wise. So this plan you can, email to yourself, and when you want to execute the plan, you will be able to see the schemes where you need to invest by clicking on execute the plan. But for that, you will have to register at Truman Capital. Similarly, you can, look at other plans as well, and it will give you a good sense of understanding how much you need to invest to create a certain corpus at the time of your event. And whether you are in a position right now to be able to meet your financial goals comfortably. If not, then what steps you need to take, whether increase your savings by cutting down your expenses or increase your income. So this is something that you will have to figure out. Now coming back to the presentation. So the third biggest financial mistake that you must avoid is investing in fads and popular stocks. So there's a human tendency to focus entirely on the outcome and not on the process or context. Nowadays, a lot of people are talking about investing in cryptocurrencies, and I'm sure, and many people also know that a lot of people of these people are not even aware that what fundamental factors drive the prices of cryptocurrencies and what could be the future. It's more about fad, a popular investment which people have just seen that the past returns have been quite fantastic, and they believe that investing in these popular popular investment avenues or stocks will give them really great return, and it's an easy way to become rich. So as a matter of fact, for every asset class, it always begins very silently. The journey of an asset class, all asset class goes through certain cycles. They nobody notices them in the beginning, then they start getting noticed, and then they become popular at some point in time. So for example, in the beginning, when nobody's talking about them, the smart money starts entering into it. Institutional investors start entering when there's some news about these assets and these investments. And as we go forward in the journey, we reach to a certain phases like mania phase and euphoria phase, where a lot of people, public, start investing at much expensive levels. So they believe that the past returns, something which have come, will continue to be there in future as well. And as I said, it's there's always a thinking that they will be able to make quick money from by jumping on the bandwagon. But unfortunately, what happens when you invest at expensive valuations in popular stocks, which already have accounted for all the best possible scenarios, a lot of pricing, has been already discounted. The best possible scenario has been discounted in the prices itself. So that's where, people end up investing at higher levels. And most of the time, these popular investment, these fads do not end well. And that's why people, lose a significant amount of money by investing in popular stocks and in some fads like cryptocurrencies, without much understanding whether the factors which have resulted in their higher returns in the past, whether these factors are still in place to continue to give you that kind of returns or not. Because most of the favorable situation that was there earlier may not continue to remain favorable in future as well. So do not invest without getting proper understanding of what you are doing, where you're investing, because most of the time when you invest, the things have become expensive. Without understanding, without knowing, you will end up investing at much higher levels, and you will regret losing a significant amount of money, because majority of the time it doesn't end well. These kind of phases, these kind of euphoria or mania phases, they don't end well. So avoid investing a significant amount of your money or any amount of money in fad investments or other popular investment avenues. So that will help you avoid any kind of distress to your savings. Next, one must understand very well, one of the biggest financial mistakes is not focusing on your asset allocation. So what is an asset allocation? Asset allocation is that you have, say, 100 rupee of investment. You have, say, 40 rupees invested in equity, 20 in gold, and remaining 40 in debt. So how asset allocation plays an important role in your portfolio? As per the studies, 80 to 85% of your portfolio performance is due to asset allocation, and remaining 15 to 20% from scheme selection. So the first step should always be to understand what is your right asset allocation, what is a suitable asset allocation to you. Every person is unique, every person has a unique requirements. So the asset allocation is also very unique to every person. So understanding what is a suitable asset allocation for you also brings discipline in you, with your overall investment management. By understanding your asset allocation, the next step then comes, for example, you have understood that you need to invest, say, 30 to 40% in equity as per your asset allocation. And the next step then comes whether, where you should invest that equity allocation to be, in which kind of mutual fund, whether it should be a large cap, multi-cap, mid-cap, or whether, you should be buying some stocks within that asset allocation. So that's where, the decision to buying a stock or buying a scheme comes after understanding, after, deciding what is your correct asset allocation. Smart investors are very careful in deciding their asset allocation. So when you talk about smart investors like Warren Buffett or Howard Marks and Seth Klarman, so all the people who have made significant amount of wealth have focused more on asset allocation, and then after deciding asset allocation, then they have figured out, okay, what investment product that they need to invest in. So your asset allocation need not be static. It's just that you should have a plan for your asset allocation to bring discipline to your investment management. For example, we have, just for reference, so we have mentioned a plan here for a person who has a moderate risk profile, where we are changing equity allocation and debt allocation with change in market levels. So market valuations, so which we calculate using valuation metrics, which is PE multiple. So we are assuming Sensex PE multiple long-term average is 18 to 21, which we think is a fair valuation range for the equity market. So at that time, we are allocating say 50 to 40% in equity, remaining in debt. And as the markets are going down, as the P ratios are going down, we are increasing our equity allocation and reducing our debt allocation. On the contrary, when the markets are going higher, we are reducing our equity allocation and increasing our debt allocation. So what we are essentially doing, we are selling high and buying low. So having this plan in place and avoiding certain biases uh, and bring discipline in managing, sticking to the plan helps a lot in creating long-term wealth. Because many times what people do is when the markets are going high, they look at the past returns and they believe that there's not much downside to the investment to the equity markets, and they end up skewing their asset allocation more towards equity when the markets are at expensive valuation. And when the markets have crashed, they increase their asset allocation more towards debt and maybe gold, and reduce from equity, because many times majority of the people end up taking emotional decisions rather than taking a logical decision and having an unemotional focus on managing your investment. So when you bring emotions in your investment, you definitely are going to commit some very wrong investment mistakes. So having a plan in place is very important. This is just for reference. Every person, depending on their risk profile, investment horizon, liquidity requirement, can have a tactical asset allocation plan. But having the plan in place before anything happens is very important, so that you can have discipline in your investment management. Next biggest financial mistake to avoid is inadequate health and life insurance cover. So this topic will be taken by Kush, who is the co-founder and an expert in insurance field. So I'm inviting Kush to take this topic. Kush, over to you.
Thanks, Sumit. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being part of this session. As we all are aware about the pandemic situation across the world and the kind of damage coronavirus has done, many people have lost their lives and many survivors are facing financial crunch. So, why buying health insurance cover for all the family member is important? I think the answer is very simple because medical care is very expensive, especially in the private hospitals. And it becomes very tough for the family members when the breadwinner of the family gets sick and gets hospitalized. And the situation gets worse when the person is required to pay medical bills from his pocket because of inadequate or zero health cover. While meeting clients, we have come across many excuses for not buying personal health insurance. Many will say, I'm young, I will take it after turning 35. And many will say, I have cover from my company, and so on. I think now we all are aware about the consequences of not buying health insurance or not having enough coverage. So, why to purchase health insurance even when your company provides it? Many working professionals rely more on their group health insurance cover. Group health insurance cover is good to have, but group health insurance cover doesn't always provide a comprehensive solution. There can be a limit on certain expenses like room rent, surgeon fees, ambulance charges, and so on. Imagine you are falling sick and finding out your insurer has a limit on room rent. You pick up the policy document and notice that cap is set at 1% of your sum insured, which is 3 lakh rupees. 1% of 3 lakh insured, which means 3,000 each day. That's not a lot. And now you are upset that you can't pick the room you wanted. So one should be aware about such cappings also. Second one is job loss or when you are changing the job or taking sabbatical. I would like to share one recent example where one of my friend changed his job and went out of the country last year and recently came back to visit his family in India and got COVID. And after a few days, he realized his whole family is COVID positive. His whole family got hospitalized and he was required to pay bills worth 10 lakh, mainly because his group cover was not applicable in India and he was not holding any personal health insurance in India. So we all can learn from these mistakes and ensure that we are having adequate cover all the time. Next one is waiting period for covering pre-existing disease. Health insurance companies generally have 3 to 4 years of waiting period for covering various pre-existing diseases. It's always advisable to take a personal health cover at a younger age when you are healthy, as at a later stage you may contract some disease like becoming diabetic or having hypertension or asthmatic and so on. And in many situations you may not be issued a health insurance policy also. One classic example I can mention over here is a diabetic person on insulin. So insulin means that the diabetic person is taking injections for treatment of diabetes. And health insurance companies never issue fresh policy to them due to the high risk factor. Next one is policy transfer is not allowed. So many working professionals feel that they can transfer group insurance policy, although that option is not available. You cannot transfer your group health insurance policy with you wherever you are going, and you need to have a personal health cover for whole family. And I would suggest that you can also opt for a floater policy when you are opting to have your whole family in that insurance policy. Life insurance. So now I think we all should answer this question first. Who should buy life insurance? We always advise to take life insurance policy when you have dependents, or you are going to have dependents, or you're not having enough investment corpus to support your family, or you are having a lot of liabilities also. What is the right time to buy life insurance? Answer is immediately. Simple reason here is that when you are young, your mortality charges are low, and as you grow older, your mortality charges keeps on increasing. It will always be advised to buy term insurance policy at a younger age and fix the premium for complete coverage period. So not only buying at a younger age, you will be provided with the life cover, but also you will reduce your premium outgo throughout the tenure. How to calculate your adequate life insurance cover? Although there is no fixed formula to calculate, and we have mentioned one, so I will discuss about it. So you can simply add up all your household expenses and inflate it till the age of your retirement. Then the other value you will get from the financial goals. You can sum up all the value of your financial goals, like child marriage, child education, and so on. Third value you will get by calculating the net worth. You can simply get net worth by deducting all your liabilities from total assets. If net worth comes out to be negative, then you need to add the figure to the other two values and deduct it if it is positive. And do remember, you have to exclude the value of house from the asset section, the house where you are currently staying. So never include the house in your asset value, where are you staying right now, because you're not going to sell that house at the time of emergency. Till what time one should get a life cover? Well, we advise till the retirement age, because you must have already accumulated wealth by that time. If it's not the case, or you don't have clear about idea about your retirement corpus, you can increase the coverage period also. never mix investments and insurance. So we must have read it 1,000 times, but we don't follow it. I often see people holding 20, 25 policies without even knowing how much cover they get from those. I would really advise not to buy any life insurance policy apart from pure term insurance, which is simply the cheapest and best way of getting maximum cover. When you are young, your premium is low, but as you grow old, your premium also rises. You can always fix the premium by buying the policy at a younger age. For example, if you are 25-year-old, your premium for 1 crore cover will come out to be somewhere around 7 to 8 thousand rupees per annum. Whereas if the same person buys policy at the age of 35, premium will be somewhere around 15 to 16,000 per annum, and it can increase more if you consume tobacco also. So take the policy as soon as possible. That would be highly recommended. We should also keep it in mind that we can invest our money in pure investment products like mutual funds, and can avoid buying ULIPs and endowment funds completely. These particular products like ULIP and endowment funds are very expensive, have higher lock-in period, and have huge penalties or premature withdrawals also on premature withdrawals. Now the next topic will be taken by Sumit. So over to you, Sumit.
Thank you, Kush. So we all have understood till now what are the 5 biggest financial mistakes we need to avoid. But even after understanding, if we do not take any action on this, then we are procrastinating, and which is again the 6th biggest financial mistake most of the people commit. So it's very important that you should invest early, insure quickly, as soon as you understand what you need to do. So let me tell you how procrastination really affects your overall wealth. So imagine two people, want to retire at the age of 45. There's a person X and person Y. Person Y starts investing at the age of 25 through SIPs of 10,000 for the next 20 years. So total investment during that 20 years is 24 lakh. At the return of 12%, he's able to accumulate an asset of 99 lakh, roughly 1 crore at the age of 45 years. On the other hand, there is a person X who starts investing at the age of 35. And the monthly SIPs he's making is 20,000 invested for 10 years. So total investment again is 24 lakh and the returns are 12% per annum. But the retirement corpus at the age of 45 years is 46 lakhs, which is roughly half of what person Y could able to achieve. So as you can see here, total investment by both person Y and person X has been 24 lakhs. The returns also are same, 12%. The only difference between person Y and person X is that person Y started at the age of 25. Person X started at the age of 35. So what exactly happens, like when you start investing early, there's a concept called power of compounding that starts working on your investment. Albert Einstein said that power of compounding is the 8th wonder of the world. So what power of compounding does is when you make any investment, the gains you get on your investment, the returns. For example, you have say invested say 100 rupees, you got say 12% return on it. So next year investment value would be 112. Then next year, after having 12% return, it would be on 112 rupees of amount, which will be 13.44. So that's how when you get returns on not just on your principal, but on your gains as well, your wealth increases significantly over a longer period of time. So the longer you keep, better the power of compounding will play on your investment and higher the corpus you will be able to create. So it's very important that you start as soon as possible. I'm not saying that you should not deliberate, you should not think so much, but it's important to have a time frame that, okay, after a week, I will have to start and I will have to make up my mind within a week's time. So that is what you need to do. Avoid procrastination, start investing and take an insurance cover as soon as possible. So just to summarize what we have learned so far in this session, first, avoid bad EMIs, which are loans, and adopt good EMIs, which are SIPs to build assets. Your financial well-being has a lot to do how you behave with your money. How you behave with your money, how you treat your money has to do a lot with how wealthy you become, or if you will be struggling meeting your important financial goals. Failing to plan is planning to fail. Have a financial plan in place. Avoid fads and popular investments. Usually that doesn't end well. As we have understood, when you end up investing in fads and popular investment, the prices are already very expensive. And usually, most of the time, rather, it never ends well. And you lose a significant amount of your savings. Have adequate health and term insurance to protect yourself and your family from financial hardships. So we all have, savings and, planned for our financial future and maybe investing in a systematic manner. But if we do not have insurance cover, it can, completely spoil our entire planning. It can also cause a severe blow to our savings and, our future plans. Avoid procrastination. A lot of wealth is lost in not taking actions. There are so many genius people and smart people who have not been able to build wealth because they just continued to think a lot for a long time, and they never took any action. So avoid that kind of a situation. Taking action is very important. Sooner you do, better it is, because of power of compounding. Avoid costly financial mistakes is a key to increase sustainable long-term wealth. So how Truman Capital can help? We provide highly customized investment plans, financial advice, and guidance throughout the life journey. We believe every person is unique, and so there must be a unique plan, investment plan for every person. There has to be an asset allocation plan, and which actually takes care of your own risk profile, your liquidity requirement, your investment horizon, and create a plan in such a way that we can reduce the downside of your portfolio and enhance the upside returns. So making your risk adjusted return much better. Help you prepare for all kind of financial emergencies, adequate insurance cover, contingency fund, etc. So we guide you with what amount of insurance cover you need, from where you can get it, and what is the amount of contingency fund you must have, how you can create it, where you can keep it to generate decent returns. We protect you from committing costly financial mistakes. So there are so many traps when we are on our investment journey that we need to avoid. So we guide you with any kind of financial decision that you want to make. You can always reach out to us, get our opinion, and which will help you avoid committing any financial mistake that can cost you dearly. We are fee only advisors having aligned interest. We work for you, not for commission. We advise, not sell. Thank you everyone for being with me throughout the session. I hope that the session helped you understand what are the biggest financial mistakes and how you can avoid it. You can reach out to us for any kind of investment advisory or financial planning requirement, and to also understand the suitable insurance cover that you need by sending us an email to connect@trumancapital.com. You can call us at 9999505324. You can visit our website, www.trumancapital.com. There you can also fix a free consultation session with our investment experts. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.